Hi, it's Cheryl with Caribou Country Lifestyle. So it's January the 24th today, and I'm not doing any gardening yet. I'm not planting any seeds or anything like that. I'm actually still patiently, almost on the verge of impatiently, waiting for my seed catalogs to come into the mail still. That hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping it's going to be happening soon, but I have my lists of what seeds or flowers, plants, vegetables that I want to purchase. I'm just waiting for my seed catalogs to come in so that I can purchase and put my orders in and get them, so at least they're being sent to me in the mail, because once you've done your ordering online, it takes about 2 weeks to get them in the mail. I usually will put my order online through a fax machine as well, and then it takes a couple of weeks. And sometimes you don't always get everything all at the same time. Last year when I ordered seeds, there were some seeds that were late and I received them later, and then there were some seeds that I never received at all. So, and there are some seeds that I order, doesn't mean that I'm going to start them this year, because what I find with some seeds, like my geraniums, I want to start them so early that if I don't get them, then I can't very well start them. So what I did last year and I did the year before was I purchased the seeds locally, or I ordered my seeds with knowing that I wouldn't be starting them until the following year. So basically what this video is about is thinking about starting your seeds indoors and getting yourself organized for when you are actually going to be starting your seeds. My first seeds I won't be starting until probably around the third week in February. I usually start my geranium seeds then, and I'm also going to start my pansy seeds, because last year I didn't get my pansies when I should have been able to be starting them. So they're actually pansy seeds that I ordered last year, and I'm going to start them this year. So you want to go through your seeds and you want to determine which seeds need to be started indoors. And in determining that, you'll want to check the seed package, because a lot of times on the back of your seed package, this is geraniums, and on the back of my seed package it says start seeds indoors 10 weeks before planting outdoors after the danger of frost is over. We live in a zone 3 in the Caribou, and our estimated last frost date is, they're saying June the 2nd now. They said June the 2nd last year as well. So it's, I won't be starting, or I won't be putting out any flowers or plants that I'm worried about them being hit with frost. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my calendar and I will start on June the 2nd, and then I'm going to count backwards 12 weeks to what that date would be. So I have all of my seeds are organized by weeks, and I bought these photo boxes. So I have them organized as 12 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and 4 weeks. And that goes for whether it's vegetables or for flowers or for herbs as well. And I'll have that all organized and have that kind of put in place. Then you can, after you've got your seeds organized and figured out when you're going to be starting them, then you want to take a look at your containers and your pots and your seed trays, your plastic dome covers, and make sure that those are all been sterilized with a mild solution of bleach and dish soap. Now, I did a video about that a few weeks ago, and so I already have all of my, like, I am ready to start. I have my pots have been sterilized, my trays have been sterilized, and I also sterilized my lids as well. You're going to think about your soil. Now, the soil that you want to be using when you're starting your seeds is like a soilless matter, and I buy a blend. Some of the blends I get the Miracle Grow seed starting mix. I get Jiffy seed starting mix. Then I've also just purchased Sungrow, which is another seed starting mix. It's a soilless mix, and generally those mixes are made of peat, perlite, vermiculite, and other nutrients in that. So what that means is it's a soil mix that is already done and pre-mixed in the bag, but you're not going to have any diseases, any insects, any weed seeds in those mixes. Generally, it should be free of that type of in that soil. So you're going to think about sowing your seeds. A lot of times it will have instructions on the back of your package, or maybe you have some kind of a gardening guide that you can follow, and a lot of them will be in alphabetical order, and it will tell you. I have seen a gardening guide on the Vessie's website. And I also have here, it's Vessie's Seeds, and they have a vegetable seed planting guide. And it basically goes through the vegetables alphabetically, and it has what type of a vegetable it is. Then in the next column, it has approximate days to germination. And what that means is how many days it's going to take from the time that you plant that seed to the time that you actually see the seed sprouting and something's growing from it. Okay, just for example, broccoli. When you start broccoli, they're ranging 7 to 10 days before the seed germinates. Then it also has here approximate seed required for a 50-foot row. Well, for me, I don't plant, well, I shouldn't say I don't plant 50-foot rows. They could accumulate to 50 feet because I put mine in raised beds, and my raised beds are 4 by 8 foot beds. Now, I will be having some in-ground gardens, but it will be mostly things like potatoes and some collard greens, and I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to put some corn into some in-ground gardens as well. Another column here is how much that 50-foot row would yield from planting those seeds into it. It has the space between the plants. It gives you a guide of how many inches, feet, and that type of thing. Also, it tells you how to space your rows, whether it could be in inches or feet. Again, the approximate planting depth. So for broccoli, I will use that as a part of the guide. 1/4 of an inch. So you're putting your seed into the ground 1/4 of an inch into the dirt. And then it has there what kind of vegetables you could direct seed right into the ground outside, and then what are ones that you're going to want to start early, and which ones are you going to, when you're going to transplant your plants from the ones that you have started early. It gives you a guide as far as which ones you will transplant after the risk of frost is over. And it also has the guide in there, and it tells you how many weeks to start those seeds in advance. And so for broccoli, again, it has, you would start that 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. So June the 2nd is mine. I would start them 4 to 6 weeks before that. So if I look at my calendar and I have it on June the 2nd, I'm going to go back into May, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would be starting those seeds on April the 21st, just to use that as a guide or an idea. On your seed packet, it will also have in here, start seeds indoors 10 weeks before outdoor planting, after the frost danger in the spring. Choose a sunny location and fertile soil with good drainage. When you're planting some on your seed package, like for large seeds, like watermelon seeds, it's quite a big seed. And you would be able to plant that seed into the pot that you're planning on putting that plant directly out into your garden. And because it's a large seed, you don't have to worry about, once it's germinated and it starts growing, you don't have to transplant that into another larger pot. I would put something like a watermelon seed in a pot that's like anywhere from 2 to 3 inches in diameter. Plant your seed into the dirt in your pot, because with a watermelon, you would be starting a watermelon 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost. So you don't have to worry about transplanting that into a bigger pot before the last frost. That is the seed that would be in that pot, a watermelon seed, and it would just stay in that pot until it's time to transplant it out to the garden. I hope that makes sense. Whereas if you were putting in smaller seeds, now some smaller seeds would be like your petunias or your impatient seeds. Now, so with your petunias and your impatiens, it's really hard to separate those tiny little seeds because they are so small. That once the seeds germinate, you can take, like there might be like 3 or 4 little plants that have poked up through the ground, and you can take and separate those little seedlings and then move those seeds into another pot. And that pot could be, again, 1 or 2 inches. So you'll take your small seeds and you'll just scatter them on the top of the soil surface. Then once they're germinated, then you can separate those seedlings and transplant them into larger containers. For you want to think about your light for germination as well. Can be important with some flower seed varieties. Take, for instance, some seed varieties as far as light levels go, your geranium seeds and my pansy seeds. Now those are 2 that you are going to plant them into their pots, but they actually need total darkness to be able to have those seeds germinate. So when I would plant my geraniums and my impatiens, to be able to have them into total darkness, I'll just show you what I've done, is I've cut black plastic that was from one of my other bags that I had from seedling mix, and on the inside I'll just take that, wipe that down to make sure that there's nothing on there, like any, that way that those seeds wouldn't get any diseases or anything like that. And I would just cover the tray. Once you've planted your seeds, I would cover it with this black plastic. And then you just want to check on those seeds daily until you see that the seeds have germinated. And once those seeds have germinated and you can see that it's visible, then you're going to remove the plastic and then place that flat of seeds under your lights, whether you have I have a light fixture that has both, it's actually a shop light, and I have 2 light bulbs, fluorescent light bulbs in it. One is a grow light bulb and the other one is just a plain cool fluorescent light bulb. I have the 2 light bulbs in the fluorescent shop ballast, and then I put my seeds under that type of light. It's an artificial light. Whereas if you have a south-facing window, you could even put your seeds in your trays in a south-facing window that would get plenty of bright light as well. Another thing you're going to want to take into consideration is your soil temperatures. If you if you're starting seeds in a room, like I start mine in my basement, and I have my plant stand that my husband has made for me, and you are going to want to make sure that that temperature in that room is somewhere in between 18 to 22 degrees Celsius, which regular air temperature, it's really hard to keep that consistent. It's usually generally warmer, especially in your house. But if it's not sufficient enough for some plants that you're starting, like your pepper plants, which like a warmer area, they like things to be warmer, and especially during germination, you can always use, if you have a furnace room, that's generally quite warmer, if that's possible. Or you could use one of the grow mats that you could put underneath the tray, and that puts out a little bit of warmth into the soil, which will help speed up the germination, especially for your pepper plants and your eggplants, those type of seeds. Your pepper seeds can take more than a week to germinate. I think on my, what does it say for here yeah, it has here approximate days to germination. On the Vessi seed planting guide, it's saying anywhere from 14 to 20 days. So you definitely want to make sure you have that warmth for those seeds, because that's a long time for a seed to take for germination. Then moving along, we have soil moisture as well. The seed needs the water to soften the seed coat, and then that will help stimulate the root development. So if the soil is allowed to dry, then your seed coat isn't going to soften, and a lot of times it will just, the growth of that seed will stop if it has a chance to dry out. So when you're starting your seeds, to keep the soil moist, a lot of times I will take and I'll mix my soil into a container and dump the soil into the container, and then I'm just going to add water to it. And you can mix it up. I have a shovel, you could use your hands, mix the water into it. Now this is very dry soil, but once you've mixed it, then you're going to squeeze the soil. And if you only have like 1 or 2 drops coming from the soil when you've squeezed it, then you know that your soil is moist enough. You don't want to have it so it's just dripping out of your dirt once you've put the water in there. You just want it so it's just got another, a drop or 2 coming out of it, and that'll be more than enough. Once you've mixed your soil, you'll put your dirt into your seed containers, whatever you're starting your seeds in. Start your seeds in the dirt, and then depending on if you're covering your seeds, like I said, your petunias and your impatients, you won't cover them with dirt. They want to be on top of the dirt, but some seeds want to be covered. And like I say, you'll just read your seed packets and it'll tell you, if there's any specific instructions. I have with my pansy seeds, it actually said to pre-chill the seeds for 24 hours before planting them. So I would just put the seed packet in my fridge the day before I was planning on planting them, put my seed packet in the fridge. Once I know that, so you're gonna, when you order your seeds, you get them in the mail or you buy your seeds, you bring them home, read up on what the package says so you have a clear understanding of what the expectation is for those seeds, so your plants will be successful. Once you've planted your seeds in the dirt and they've been watered and everything, a lot of times will put a plastic dome over top of it. You could use a plastic bag, like a freezer bag. You could even cut it open, take a large freezer bag, extra large freezer bag, cut down the sides, open it up so it's one big sheet. You could put that over top as well. I have plastic domes that I've purchased and I put those over. Once my seeds have sprouted, I take the tops off. I don't leave them on there. A good rule of thumb when you are watering your plants, and especially if they are in trays, it's always good to water from the bottom. You can just lift up one of those little plant cells or take it right out and pour your water into the tray in the bottom underneath your plants. Water them that way. If most of them are water, like if most of if you find that the soil dries out, just use a water bottle with a fine mist and water the tops of the plants that way. That way then you're not pushing the seeds around. If it's too direct of a stream, then it's going to shove the seed further into the ground when you're trying to water it. So you just want to spray it with a fine mist to be able to water the top of the dirt if you find that it's drying out fairly quickly. So after germination, your lighting is critical. You want to make sure that if your plants are indoors and if your plants don't have sufficient light, they will become leggy or very tall, and then they will have a tendency to bend over or they'll just break. And then you've just wasted that poor plant is just, you might as well end up having to throw it out, and no one wants that to be happening. The lighting is really important. You want to make sure that your young seedlings after germination, that they are getting about 16 hours of light a day. So with my seedlings and my lights, I have them on a timer, and we have it set that it comes on at like 6 in the morning, and they're on until no, we have it so that it comes on at about 5 in the morning, and then they're on until about, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night, and then it automatically shuts off. Another thing you want to make sure is that your plants are about 3 or 4 inches away from the light. Like that's not that, it's like this much space, maybe that much space. So you want to have it so that your lights are above your plants about 3 or 4 inches. My shelves on my plant stand are adjustable, so I just take the shelf out, move it down, put it back in, and then put the trays back on it. A lot of people have their lights hanging on chains or that type of an apparatus, and you can adjust them that way. So it's pretty easy to adjust your lights for those type of, if you have artificial lighting. If you are using a window, what you also want to be doing is, a lot of times when you have your trays of plants in the window, they seem to want to stretch towards the light. You can turn the tray and just make sure that you're keeping an eye on that, making sure that the plants aren't bending towards the light. You'll also need to start after the plants are growing, you're going to want to start thinking about fertilizing your plants. You want to use a mild, balanced fertilizer. You could use fish emulsion, compost tea. There's blended fertilizers. You could use a blended fertilizer such as a 20-20-20. There's also a 15-30-15. And when you're mixing those, you want to dilute it to half the strength as what they're suggesting on the container when you're pre-mixing it up. And it's always, another thing is good to use is a fertilizer that mixes into the water very readily. A lot of times I'll put the fertilizer into my watering pail, watering a jug, and then I'll put the water into it, so as it's filling up into it, it's mixing it around. For the first few feedings, I would feed the plants weekly, and then gradually, just for the first few feedings, feed the plants weekly, but that's with the diluted. And then after 3 or 4 weeks of feeding them with the half of the dilution, then you can mix your fertilizer, the full strength, as what's recommended on the container. The do's and the don'ts as far as your watering, you want to use sterile, well-drained containers. So like I say, using a mild bleach and dish soap solution to clean your containers with, and have proper drainage holes in your containers as well. You want to make sure you're watering from the bottom. You want to make sure that there's a good air circulation. A lot of times, once the plants are established, I will set up a fan that is blowing on my plants, kind of at a level where it's actually going to be hitting the plants, and I'll have the airflow going around the plants so that there's a good air circulation going over those plants. And then another thing that you could do is just do a little sprinkling of either a layer of sand or a layer of perlite. And I actually ended up picking up a bag of perlite. And this one here, it has that it helps prevent soil compaction. So if you just do a little light layer of that around the base of the plant, then that will keep the stem dry that's growing up from the dirt. And then that'll absorb any excess moisture from the dirt as well. Now, things to avoid, you're going to want to avoid acidic soil, watering from the top, you don't want to be excessive watering your plants neither, and don't let your soil dry out completely, because that can affect the germination of the seed as well. You don't want to be letting your soil dry out completely. There's also, you don't want to have high humidity, and again, that will help with you having a fan and circulating the air. That will help take away from the high humidity. You don't want to also be overcrowding your seedlings and having them so close together that there is no air circulation being able to flow through them as well. So I hope that helps with you to be able to, get things organized, get things prepared for when you want to start your seeds, getting them started. I'm planning on starting, like I said, the third week in February, and the only ones I'm going to be starting are my geraniums and my pansies. And then my first seeds after that, my 12-week seeds, I will be starting some foxglove. I still have seeds that I'm ordering. I have lots of seeds that I want to be ordering. And I'm going to start some herbs. I had a hard time with rosemary, so I want to start that fairly early. And I don't know, rosemary's a hard one. I seem to have a hard time getting that one going. So I'm not sure if it's just the seed. Maybe I need to purchase some newer seed. The stuff I have, it's a few years old. And I mean, I know on other seeds, I don't usually have an issue when seeds are a few years old, but maybe rosemary's different. I seem to struggle with getting rosemary started. I have no problem starting basil and parsley, and another one I struggle with is the cilantro. That's another hard one to get going too, and to keep it growing. It seems to go to seed so quickly, and I haven't quite figured that one out yet either. So anyways, I hope that helps with your start of your growing season. Like I say, I'm just waiting. I have 3 catalogs coming in. I have Lindenberg seeds. We do live in British Columbia, Canada, and I am ordering I'm requesting catalogs from in Canada so that my shipping won't be very expensive. So I'm getting Lindenberg, and they're based out of Brandon, Manitoba, and then I get T&T, and they're based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and then I've also requested a catalog from Vessie's, and they are from Prince Edward Island. So I'm just, I just want them to be in the mail. I just want them to be in the mail. Please let them be in the mail. I'm hoping for that they'll be in the mail this week. It's Monday, January the 24th, so I'm really hoping my seed catalogs are in this week. So anyways, happy planting, and I will talk to you again. Thanks for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, throw in a subscribe. We'll talk again. Bye for now.